Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Sulmeen Ansari and I welcome you back to another fantastic episode of Contourcast, Podcast for Life, Season 3. कहते हैं कि जो लोग खामोश मिजाज होते हैं उनके पास मौका होता है ज़्यादा सुनने का, सुन के समझने का, समझ के सीखने का और सीख के उसको अप्लाई करने का. ऐसी ही कहानी हम आज आपके सामने लेके आए हैं of an absolutely fantastic professional who has nurtured herself by listening very, very carefully and making her journey a memorable one. I'm talking about Saniya Khan. Saniya, Assalamu alaikum and welcome to the hot seat.
Walaikum assalam. Thank you for giving me the pleasure. Thank you so much.
I'm so happy that you're here and I was really delighted to speak to you that day because आपकी personality जहाँ कहने को demure है, वहाँ बहुत एक fulfilling journey आपकी रही है. So we'll start with way back when you were a younger girl who loved reading books, जो apparently आप अब तक भी करती हैं, and then your schooling and then the career that you decided to carve out for yourself.
All right. So I started off as, I did my O and A levels from the city school.
Mm-hmm.
And after that, I thought of jumping into a creative field, which was mass communication for me.
Okay.
So I did that. And in mass communication, I opted for print media because, I had this thing for writing.
Okay.
So I wanted to go into something, in the field where I can write, where I can express, through my writing.
Mm-hmm.
So that was the field that I chose for myself. And then once I completed my master's in mass communication, I jumped right into, the work field.
Okay.
And obviously, us time pe thoda sa, the competition was high.
Right.
And I didn't want to go into the media houses per se. So I opted for content writing side of the field. So I started off my career as a content writer in one of the e-commerce houses of Pakistan.
Right.
And then from there onwards, my work journey started, which is, based on 10 years now.
Okay, wonderful. अच्छा, interesting transition के बारे में भी आपने बात की. Copywriting से फिर आप project management की तरफ product manager बनी. वो क्या transition था?
Transition इस तरह से था क्योंकि obviously I was working there by the time I was made into turned into a product manager. I was working there for like 3 years.
Acha.
So my boss, he judged me from my skills and everything, and he offered me the post of junior product manager.
Acha.
And us time pe I was like, I don't have a technical background. I don't even have a formal technical education. I belong to a creative field.
Mm-hmm.
So would I be able to do it? And he was like, you will be given a time to learn everything. You will be taught everything. So just go with the flow.
Acha.
So I jumped right into it. And that was the time I remember the first campaign. It was a Black Friday campaign that we were doing. It was a huge campaign for every e-commerce. And it was the time where, he said to me, like, you want to get your hands dirty, just jump right into the work. And I knew nothing about, the back end, the front end. There was nothing familiar to me regarding this field.
Right.
So I did that, and there was a team that was there to help me out.
Right.
So yeah, I tried to do that.
And you did it very well. And I remember you mentioning कि मतलब even 24 hours जब ये Black Friday जैसी situation आती थी आप लोग काम कर रहे होते थे.
हम काम करते थे 24 hours. Like, I used to go home around 12 and then I used to be back right in the very next day at 8 a.m. So I was hardly getting any sleep at that time. But we had to, keep the show running.
You had to keep the show running. अच्छा, इससे दो चीज़ें मेरे दिमाग में आती हैं. एक ये कि you have a very supportive family because as a female professional or as a male professional, but more so with female professionals, these are extensively long working hours. एक तो अगर इदारा अच्छा हो तो पेरेंट्स कंफर्टेबल होते हैं और पेरेंट्स को अपनी औलाद पे भरोसा हो तो. So it goes to show, it would be safe to say that you have an extremely supportive family.
Absolutely, I do. But, the first time I went for an interview in the same e-commerce house, so my parents went with me. And my mom was sitting in the waiting area and she was talking to the receptionist. And she was kind of worried because I was like, stepping out for the very first time out of my comfort zone and everything. So she was asking the receptionist, how well, the company is and which department she's going into. So the receptionist there was, like, मैडम फिक्र मत करें, जो है आपकी बेटी बहुत अच्छे डिपार्टमेंट में जा रही है वहाँ पे. इट्स द बेस्ट डिपार्टमेंट ओवर हियर. तो और जो मैनेज कर रहे हैं वो भी बहुत अच्छे हैं, तो शी वुड बी फाइन. तो वहाँ से मेरी अम्मी को थोड़ा सा जो है ट्रस्ट बिल्ड होना शुरू हुआ, दिलासा हुआ. एंड देन आई
then you went ahead.
Yeah.
The concern obviously is very instinctive for parents. With freedom, the concern will be there because they're parents after
Absolutely,
all.
I understand.
All right. And then when you got an opportunity in Contour, I remember you saying something which resonated with me, and I think will resonate with a lot of our audience members also, कि हम expect करते हैं ना कि हमारी journey career में जो है वो एक certain direction में जाए, और उससे ना सिर्फ positions, designations, titles and then departments जो है हम associate कर देते हैं अपने दिमाग में, यहाँ से यहाँ फिर यहाँ से यहाँ. आपके साथ थोड़ा सा different हुआ, और वो क्या था?
Different ये हुआ कि because around like 2019 का end था and the company was not doing so well where I was working. So I got the call from Contour that you just had a final interview left, because उससे पहले मैं Contour के लिए apply कर चुकी थी, but I didn't got the opportunity उस time पे.
Right.
That was around maybe like 6-7 months back from that time.
ठीक है.
So and they called me for the technical writer. I was like, okay, let's try, because even though it was kind of a demotion for me at that point, because I was working as a product manager,
right.
But because the company wasn't doing so well this time, and I wanted to keep the job, I didn't want to go, unemployed. So I picked that opportunity, and I was like, I'll grow from there, because I knew I had the penchant for learning. मैं learn कर सकती हूँ. So and I went ahead with the offer. The very next day I got the offer of the interview.
Acha, you went ahead with it the very next day. The reason why I said it resonated with me and will do so with audience is because you use the word demotion, right? And that is not something that you should or anybody should feel bad about, because technically speaking, आपको लग यही रहा होता है कि you're going at a position which is lower. But now that you reflect back, would you say it was one of the very wise decisions of your life?
Absolutely, it was. Because, at that position, like on the technical writer position, it gave me a chance to, learn about the products that I was going to be working on in the future.
Right.
उस time पे मुझे जो है बहुत basic सा काम था मेरे पास, like, making release notes या documenting user guides or etc. But उस चीज़ ने मुझे actually, familiarize कराया जो भी products उस डिवीजन में जिन पे मैं काम करने वाली थी. तो मुझे काफ़ी जो है उसके बैक एंड प्रोसेसेस पता चले. मुझे पता चला कि प्रोडक्ट चलता किस तरीके से है, उसके फंक्शंस क्या हैं. तो बाय द टाइम आई वाज ऑफर्ड द पोजीशन ऑफ VA, तो आई हैड अ वेग आइडिया ऑफ लाइक हाउ दीज थिंग्स वर्क. इट वाज नॉट कंप्लीटली something that कि मुझे बिल्कुल zero idea उसके बारे में.
Right. You were more well equipped.
Absolutely.
And just for our audience, BA is not Bachelorette of Arts, it's Business Analyst. और आप किस division में आप काम करती हैं?
Newstar. I was hired in Newstar, and I'm still working in Newstar, but the product has changed, of course. I'm now working for Newstar X, that is NX.
Okay. And would you like to tell our audience what that is?
NX is basically a more, advanced version of the Newstar application.
Okay.
So basically, previously there used to be like, different products for each. It's basically an ERP. The Newstar is an ERP which has different products, which is based on different products. Like sales is a different product, and enterprise was a different product. Design was a different product. NX basically comprises of all of these products in one.
Acha.
So it's a big ERP that we are currently working on. So my department is basically NX sales. I'm working on sales side of the NX.
All right, wonderful. And thank you for sharing this wonderful journey. Coming back to the first thing that I said, खामोश मिजाज. खामोश मिजाज इंसान वैसे लोगों के सामने जैसा भी हो, घर में इंसान थोड़ा सा मुख्तलिफ होता है. एक बहुत ही मज़ेदार आपने एक एस्पेक्ट शेयर किया था about your relationship with your sister, of what it used to be and then where it went, especially after you got married. Would you like to shed light on that?
Absolutely. So मेरी बहन का और मेरा like relationship, मैं toxic बिल्कुल नहीं बोलूँगी. It was not toxic, but it was like, which every other girl could relate to. Like, हमारी cat fights होती थी. We used to get scratches on our hands, and then अम्मी चीख रही होती थी हमारे ऊपर. तो इस तरह वाली सिचुएशन थी हमारी रिलेशनशिप की. बट once she got married, and there were only 4 of us in the house at the time. तो अम्मी पापा मैं और आयशा. तो by the time आयशा got married, तो हम सिर्फ 3 ही रह गए थे.
Right.
तो उस वक्त थोड़ी सी फील होना शुरू होती थी अकेलापन, या there's someone missing around. तो उसके बाद मैं ये नहीं कहूँगी कि like बहुत अच्छी हो गई मेरी उसके साथ. Like I was never the person जो कि चीज़ें शेयर करती थी अपनी बहन के साथ, कि मैं ऑफिस से आ रही हूँ तो मैं उससे रोज़ की बातें शेयर कर रही हूँ. I'm still not that person, but उसके बच्चों के साथ I am like, they are more mine than hers.
Right.
So I can give my life for them. But it has evolved in a very good way. But that's all.
That's all, and that's a lot actually. And I think you rightly said कि हर दूसरे घर की कहानी है. कुछ बहनों की बहुत बनती है देखने में, और कुछ बहनों की देखने में नहीं बनती है. But trust me, it is all, the foundation is still love, because you wouldn't be able to, take care of her kids as your own had it not been for the love that you had developed for your sister. And then a quiet person not just had a transition in her personality after her sister got married, but then you yourself ended up getting married to someone who is quite the contrast to you. So what has that been like?
Okay, so my husband, he has a pretty big social life. He has a big social circle. And I, on the other hand, was the person with, zero social circle, I would like to say. तो मेरी लाइक यूनिवर्सिटी के टाइम से लेके ऑफिस के टाइम तक लाइक आई ओनली हैव अ फ्यू फ्रेंड्स, अ फ्यू जेन्युइन फ्रेंड्स दैट आई हैव, बिकॉज मेरी अपनी नेचर ऐसी है कि मैं रिजर्व नेचर की हूँ. मैं बहुत ज़्यादा सोशलाइज नहीं करती, इवन अभी भी. तो मेरे लिए थोड़ा सा मुश्किल होता है लोगों में मिंगल करना. और इसकी वजह से लाइक देयर इज़ अ मिसकंसेप्शन अबाउट मी विच आई हर्ड ऑफन कि मैं रूड हूँ या मैं आई हैव एन एटीट्यूड प्रॉब्लम. बट इट्स नॉट द एटीट्यूड प्रॉब्लम. आई एम जस्ट जनरली रिजर्व्ड. मैं खुद से जाके अप्रोच नहीं करती लोगों को जाके हाथ मिला रही हूँ या आई एम ग्रीटिंग देम. इफ दे कम टू मी, आई एम अ वेरी वार्म पर्सन, बट इट्स जस्ट दैट आई डोंट गो एंड अप्रोच देम माई सेल्फ. So on the other hand, my husband has a big social circle. He likes to have a social life. So it's kind of, he has kind of balanced it out.
Right.
So his social circle is kind of my social circle now, which I'm pretty, comfortable with.
Okay. So another transition of life. अच्छा, traveling का आपको शौक है, लेकिन आप शहर के अंदर जब ट्रैवल करती हैं तो आप चाहती हैं कि कोई और ड्राइव करे. इसकी क्या कहानी है?
इसकी कहानी ये है कि लाइक आई हैड अ कपल ऑफ एक्सीडेंट्स इन लाइक past few years, and it instilled like kind of a fear in me. I'm not traumatized for say, but I am still fearful of being alone in the car and driving all by myself. So I prefer someone driving for myself and I being the passenger princess.
बिल्कुल ठीक है. और fears की जहाँ हम बात करते हैं तो it takes time, and whatever time is meant for you to overcome it, you overcome it. One fear which you have overcome so far is speaking in front of people. And that has got to do with something that somebody in the past had said to you, जो कि आपने कहा कि बैठ गया आपके दिमाग में. वो क्या बात थी?
बात ये थी कि like when I started working, तो मेरी बॉस उस टाइम की like she used to say कि you have it all that it takes to make up a good professional,
right.
But you need to come out of your shell a bit.
अच्छा.
तुम बाहर निकलोगी अपने उस शेल से तो तुम और ज़्यादा ग्रो कर सकती हो.
ठीक है.
And she used to take me to all the meetings with her, even though I was not required at that time in those meetings, but she used to grab me along and she used to take me कि तुम सीखोगी इस तरीके से.
ठीक है.
तो that was the point.
So because she took you under her wing and she took you to those meetings, so you have that example from your life कि आपको भी किसी और के साथ अगर ये करने का मौका मिले तो आप कर सकती हैं.
Absolutely. And I try to do that.
I'm sure that you do. So business analyst की position में अब आपकी ज़्यादा front facing है लोगों के साथ?
Absolutely, yes. Okay. It's more client facing.
So जब शुरू आपने किया client facing, तो what were the first few days like?
Okay, so the very first interaction I had with the clients was, I was nervous, of course. But I had my manager on top of me उस वक्त, तो it was not that fearful or nervous. इतना नहीं थी मैं. But once I was on my own, उस टाइम पे मुझे होता था like there should be someone validating what I'm asking, what I'm answering. तो but I used to had my team along with me, तो वो cover हो जाता था. And then I got the opportunity to present or demonstrate our work in front of 50-100 plus people.
Wow.
In internal hands-off. तो वो टाइम था कि मुझे I was fearful कि मुझसे कोई गलती ना हो जाए, because there are so many people watching you or listening to you. But वो हो गया किसी तरीके से. अल्लाह का नाम लिया और I jumped into it.
And also, because you mentioned that, there were people along the way who in some way or the other guided you, whether it was your parents, encouraging you, or whether it was a boss. So mentorship कितनी ज़रूरी होती है?
बहुत ज़रूरी होती है.
Okay.
Like in my case, it was the most important thing ever. Like मुझे जो है मेरी कोशिश ये होती है कि मेरा हर मूव कोई वैलिडेट करता रहे, like for now. Because I don't think कि मैं अभी उस स्टेज पे पहुंची हूँ जहाँ पे मुझे वैलिडेशन की ज़रूरत नहीं है.
Okay.
तो आई थिंक कि मेरे ऊपर मेंटोर होना, मेरी मैनेजर, लाइन मैनेजर होना इज़ अ वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट थिंग फॉर मी.
And you mentioned Kristen and the relationship that you have. What's that like?
It's a very cordial relationship, very, what would I say, frank relationship.
Okay.
She is a very frank person by nature herself.
Okay.
तो हमारी काफ़ी इंटरेक्शन रहती है और लाइक शी इज़ अ फन लविंग पर्सन herself. तो हमारी काम के अलावा भी बातें काफ़ी चलती रहती हैं. तो शी इज़ दैट काइंड ऑफ मैनेजर जो आपको मैनेजर नहीं लगेगी, बट शी इज स्टिल योर मैनेजर, बट यू विल फील लाइक शी इज़ अ फ्रेंड.
Okay. 2 things that make Contour stand out as a workplace.
I think they give you a chance to grow.
Okay.
And there's a work-life balance.
Okay.
तो आप constantly ये नहीं feel करते that you are being burdened with work.
Okay.
तो यहाँ पे activities होती रहती हैं, यहाँ पे on and off कुछ ना कुछ चलता रहता है. That takes your mind off work as well.
All right, a quick and fun rapid fire for you. आप yes and no में भी जवाब दे सकती हैं डिपेंडिंग ऑन के सवाल अगर ऐसा है, एंड स्पेसिफिक जवाब भी एक लफ्ज में या छोटे से जुमले में. Are you ready? One celebrity from Pakistan that you'd really like to meet.
फवाद खान maybe.
Okay, Fawad Khan maybe. One international celebrity that you'd really go flat out to meet.
Daniel Radcliffe.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting, very interesting. And that's because of the series.
Absolutely.
So you're a Potterhead.
Yes, I am.
Okay, सारी पढ़ी हैं?
बिल्कुल, सारी देखी हैं, सारी पढ़ी हैं.
अच्छा, खाना पकाना या खाना खाना?
खाना और पकाना अभी सीख रही हूँ.
Okay, ठीक है. Favorite cuisine?
Chinese.
Favorite color?
Purple.
Favorite person in the family?
My husband.
Pets yes or pets no?
It was a no, but abhi, like my in-laws, my husband, he loves pets, so we have 3 cats and a dog. So
Okay,
I'm
so plenty
getting warmed
of
up
them.
to them, yes.
Okay, complete this sentence for me. Global warming is a...
Disaster.
All right. One thing that if you had an Aladdin का चराग और आप रब करती और आपकी यूं ख्वाहिश पूरी हो जाती तो वो क्या मांगती आप?
Health for my parents.
That is so beautiful. That was very, very spontaneous. अगर कोई ऐसा सवाल है जो आप चाहती हैं कि हम अपने किसी और गेस्ट से पॉडकास्ट पे पूछे, वो सवाल क्या होगा?
What one advice would you give to your ex-boss if you could?
Alright, Saniya, मुझे ये बताइए कि फ्री टाइम में, as I mentioned, आपने जिक्र किया था बुक्स पढ़ती हैं. उसके अलावा क्या करती हैं?
उसके अलावा आई जस्ट अभी राइट नाउ अभी क्योंकि मैं आई जस्ट गॉट मैरिड, तो मैं ये कोशिश करती हूँ कि मैं जाके अपने इन-लॉज के साथ थोड़ा टाइम स्पेंड कर लूँ, जो कि मुझे मुश्किल से मिलता है क्योंकि लाइक आई एम कॉन्स्टेंटली वर्किंग. लाइक मेरा वर्क आवर्स आर लाइक ईस्टर्न टाइम के हिसाब से हैं.
ओके.
तो आई एम एट वर्क अराउंड सिंस 1 PM टू लाइक रात के 10-11 भी बज जाते हैं टाइम. तो बीच में थोड़ा सा ब्रेक मिलता है, तो आई प्रेफर गोइंग डाउन एंड सिट विद देम एंड हैव अ चैट विद देम.
ओके.
तो दैट्स व्हाट आई लाइक टू डू राइट नाउ बिकॉज अभी इस वर्क लाइफ बैलेंस थोड़ा सा ऑफ चल रहा है.
ओके. But generally, as you mentioned earlier, that चूंकि flexibility है and you can work from home also, so I'm sure that adds some value to adjusting things आहिस्ता.
It does, but सुबह से लेके शाम तक जो दोपहर तक का टाइम होता है वो वैसे ही जल्दी का टाइम होता है. You try to wrap up as much things as you can before
True.
you jump into the work.
Right.
तो उस टाइम पे वो टाइम आपको नहीं मिलता जो आप सोच रहे होते हो कि आप बैठो बातें करो और ये सब करो, तो थोड़ा सा मुश्किल होता है इस टाइम पे.
Okay. Are you the kind of person who looks forward to challenges, खासतौर पे work related challenges?
I do, but not so much.
Acha, okay. You like things to be a little comfortable.
Yeah.
Acha, okay. Thank you for being honest about that. We have a question for you from another guest. And the other guest doesn't know कि ये सवाल आप तक आ रहा है, तो उनके लिए भी surprise है. And the question is, there's many superpowers that one can think of if one were to go into a world of fantasy, and many superheroes also. तो अगर आपको कोई superhero या heroine का character अपनाना हो, तो वो कौन होगा and what would you like to do?
Okay, so the superpower that I probably would like to have is invisibility.
Okay. And reason?
And the reason is because I am not a person who likes a lot of limelight.
Acha,
I would like to work behind the scenes more.
Okay.
I would like to help people behind the scenes more.
Hmm.
So if I'll have that, power of invisibility, I could be there and, be able to help people. And even though I'm not being seen.
And अगर एक दिन के लिए आप कॉन्टूर के किसी भी शख्स की जगह ले सकें, नाम सोच के आप, आई एम नॉट टॉकिंग अबाउट डेजिग्नेशन, कि इनकी ये जॉब जो है वो ये बहुत अच्छे से करते हैं या मुझे कूल लगती है या मैं एक्सपेरिमेंट करना चाहूंगी फॉर वन डे, तो किसकी जगह आप लेना चाहेंगी?
अच्छा, नाम लेना है?
हाँ.
अच्छा, मेरा इंटरेक्शन बहुत ज़्यादा लोगों से तो नहीं हुआ है यहाँ पे, बट I think it should be someone in HR. I'm not familiar with the names, but has to be someone in HR.
Acha, and why is that?
HR is a field, or the department where आप जहाँ पे आप लोगों से बहुत ज़्यादा interact कर रहे होते हो.
ठीक है.
That is something, I would like to be able to achieve. क्योंकि मैं बहुत ज़्यादा लोगों से मिलती नहीं हूँ. मैं reserve nature की हूँ, तो I would probably like to, get over that flaw of mine.
You want to develop yourself, इसलिए आप HR में जाना चाहेंगी for a day. क्या पता, after this podcast, maybe the management also decides to give you an opportunity. You never know where the career shift may be. कौन सी ऐसी चीज़ है खाने की जो कि आपको कभी भी दे दी जाए अगर, तो आपका मूड अच्छा हो जाता है?
चावल.
Any particular kind of चावल?
Any चावल. Like, I can have चावल with anything. कोई सूखी सी चीज़ भी बनी हुई होगी, like आलू कीमा बना हुआ होगा, I can have चावल with it.
अच्छा.
कोई सब्जी बनी हुई होगी, I can have boiled rice with it. So it needs to be चावल in any form, in any shape.
Okay. And travel destination on your bucket list?
Turkey.
Okay, and why is that?
I know, I just like the vibe of Turkey. And the weather, of course. I am more inclined towards the cooler temperatures.
जो सर्दियों में वहाँ पे होता है, right?
So, yeah.
And culturally, it's a very rich place.
It's a very rich place,
yeah, why not? Just to wrap things up, female professionals के लिए one solid, sound piece of advice.
Trust yourself and don't think about, कि आप demote हो रही हो या promote हो रही हो. If you think कि आप, grow करोगी इस point से, just go for it.
All right. Saniya, it was a pleasure speaking to you. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much. Pleasure is all mine. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, that was indeed a flawless and very smooth conversation. It was a pleasure having Saniya on the hot seat. Till next time, this is me, Sulmeen Ansari, signing off and saying thank you and Allah Hafiz.